I think we can probably get started. I'm just going to start off with a couple technical details this afternoon. We are using Zoom webinar today, so you'll notice that you can see us as the panelists, but you won't be able to see each other, and you won't be able to unmute yourselves or show your cameras. But if you do have any questions or anything as we kind of go through the presentation, please feel free to use the Q&A feature at the bottom of the screen there, and we'll get to that near the end. And then, of course, please use the chat. And yes, I do see someone asking about our recordings from our previous session. I know we're going to be putting those up very soon. So once we've got them up, we'll make sure to get them out to you. I believe we'll be using YouTube for that. So now I'll just pass it over to Leslie, and Leslie, on to you.
Thanks, Aaron. I just want to take a second and welcome everyone, and thank you all for attending today. We understand that labor is a challenge for everyone, and many businesses will use third-party agencies or may be interested in looking into third-party agencies to assist them in finding workers. Unfortunately, even though you think that you're doing all the right things, there are a few bad players out there. This can be challenging to navigate, so we've partnered with CAHRC to have this webinar put together for you to help you along your way. This will be recorded and on CNLA's YouTube channel, as well as I believe CAHRC's YouTube channel for future reference, and we will get those links out to you as soon as possible. And with that, I will hand it over to Jade.
Great, thanks, Leslie. Hi, everyone. My name is Jade Reed, and I'm a Senior Program Manager with the Council. I just wanted to give you a brief overview. I know some of you are familiar with CAHRC and some perhaps are new. We are a not-for-profit association that works with stakeholders across Canada, focused on primary agriculture, and we collaborate to develop tools, solutions, resources, as well as robust labor market information to support the industry. So I'm very pleased to be here today. And one of the things that I wanted to highlight was under our Agri-Skills program. We do a lot of training or collaborate to help develop training through the use of national occupational standards. And one of the things that came out of our labor market research was that there was a need for supervisor training. And we were fortunate through past projects to develop national occupational standards across 17 different commodity groups. And they all focused in on some of the production areas, but as well on the competency side, those soft skills, particularly for leaders to understand the requirements for leadership skills. So communication, leading a team, having those difficult conversations, conflict resolution. And so we have a short program that we are hoping to pilot in March. And it's for supervisors or managers workers transitioning into supervisor positions, as well as those that may want to brush up on their leadership skills. It's an overview program, and it also lends itself to be a stepping stone for more learning to be developed, because as Victoria is going to talk about today, there are some challenges within the sphere of the temporary foreign worker program. And so we want to be able to support leaders, supervisors that are also managing temporary foreign workers. So there's some on the equity, diversity, inclusion side, but there's also some training that we will focus in on to help employers that are managing foreign workers. So if that's of interest, please don't hesitate to contact me. I think my contact information is at the end of the slide. And I can share more information with you. And also, if you have recommendations for someone that you think would be interested in taking the program, we will be sending out communications to CNLA that they can share with their membership to inform people of when the pilot will be open. It's completely free, and there's an opportunity for those that complete the program to win $500. So I just wanted to share that with you before I turn it over to my colleague, Victoria.
Hi everyone, thank you for joining. I'm Victoria and I'm a program manager with CAHRC. So I put together this presentation about working with the recruitment agencies. Before joining CAHRC, I actually worked in the recruitment agency in Saskatchewan, and previously before moving to Canada, I had experience in the recruitment industry back in Ukraine, so I can talk about this topic for hours. The presentation will hopefully be up to 30 minutes long, and feel free asking any questions. What I'm going to talk about is just an overview of the type of recruitment agencies. I will focus more on the foreign recruitment, but provide like a general overview of recruitment agencies that work with local applicants, about ethical recruitment standards, some regulatory requirements, and just like in general, like how to work with the recruitment agency, how the recruitment process looks like, what are the best practices, and after that, I'm open to answer any questions. Types of recruitment agencies, like basically there are like three main types, which are permanent recruitment, international recruitment, and temporary and contract staffing. With the permanent recruitment, this will be the agency that will fill in permanent or contract roles with Canadians or permanent residents. Mostly it will be working like to fill in full-time positions. And if you're working with the agency, like of the permanent full-time, you like once the employee is hired, he is put on the payroll by the employer, not by the agency. With the international recruitment or like labor recruitment, foreign worker recruitment agencies, these are the agencies that fill permanent or seasonal positions with international talent. The workers will have to be put on the payroll by the employer. You as an employer will be required to go through a certain authorization process to hire foreign workers, and also there is an employer compliance regime if you're hiring a foreign worker. And temporary contract and staffing agency will be filling up like just seasonal short-term positions based on the requirements. Workers can be on the payroll with the agency, and there are also certain limitations of hiring international workers because like they will be hired by the agency. And here is just based on my practice and my experience, pros and cons of using a recruitment agency. If we're talking about pros, by working with the agency, you reach out a broader pool of applicants. Like your hiring might be faster. Also, a lot of agencies specialize in certain skill set or certain industry. So you work with the industry expertise. And you also save time because you're getting the applicants that are shortlisted, pre-screened, they're interested in the job, and they already went through the first round of interviews. And also, if you're a small business, if you don't have an HR specialist or recruiter, your team members will not have to be involved in this process, and they can focus on their task and their job duties. The cons is there is always cost of working with the agency, depending on the type of workers you're hiring or the volumes of workers you're hiring. It's still your responsibility as an employer to interview and make a hiring decision because the agency will not do this work for you. You're kind of giving a control over the process to somebody else. So you don't know what is happening, how many applicants applied, how is it going. Also, if you're just starting working with the agency, if they don't know your business well, they can't do and assess the cultural fit, especially if it's a small business. Like they not always know like which applicant would fit your environment, your company culture. And also the other disadvantage as well, like there is always a balance between quantity and quality. Like recruitment agencies like need to provide, for example, 4, 3, 5 applicants per position. And sometimes like additional applicants are added just because of the quantity, not of the quality. With the international recruitment agencies, there are agencies that are operating in Canada, there are agencies that are operating overseas, and there are also agencies that would do recruitment and immigration at the same time. And there is a difference between recruitment services and immigration services. Like recruitment services is the service that assists a foreign national or employer to find a job in Canada. And this is under the provincial jurisdiction. There are certain licensing regulations depending on the province. I will explain later about it. And immigration services are the services that assist foreign national or employer in immigration matters. For foreign nationals, it could be assistance with the work permit application, with permanent residency application. For the employers, it could be assistance, for example, with LMI application. If you're using an immigration agency, the agency needs to be licensed and it either need to be a regulated Canadian immigration consultant or a lawyer. This is just like an overview of labor recruitment supply chain. The person with the desk is the employer, and the yellow is the recruiter in Canada. The green one is the recruiter overseas, and those blue ones are the workers. So as you can see, there are like different ways how you can hire a worker from overseas. There is a direct recruitment. You can work with the agency in Canada. You can work with the agency overseas. The agency in Canada can have an agency overseas, or an agency in overseas can have like multiple affiliated partners or agents. And the more complicated this chain, the more like complicated the chain is, or the more like players are in the chain, the more information can get lost. So like if you are like working with the agency, you need to make sure that actually like the applicant knows what the job is, like what's happening, and I will explain later about that too. We will talk about the best practices for the recruitment, but I just want to touch base on like some unfair recruitment practices, such as like charging fees, or extraordinary fees for the workers, especially for the like immigrant workers. And like the fees could be like from $2,000 to like $10,000 just to get a job in Canada, or like not giving enough information to the worker about their contract, advertising non-existing jobs, misrepresenting the terms of the positions, or like letting workers to believe that they can immigrate to Canada or stay in Canada, a recovery of the recruitment cost, like psychological, verbal abuse, confiscation of passport, work permits, or either identity documents. So these are all unfair practices, and there is a regulation in each province how to deal with those. So the main best practice is that no recruitment fees could be charged to the worker or the job seeker. And this is like an international practice. But it comes with a lot of questions, especially when hiring workers from overseas. So can employer recover the cost of the recruitment of the foreign worker? What about those costs that are not associated with the recruitment, but these are the costs for the immigration services? And these are the questions that need to be asked, and you need to think about it. Because, for example, if you're hiring a foreign worker and he had to pay like, I don't know, $10,000 to come to Canada, he will probably not be very motivated to work in a low-skilled job, and he will be looking to go some cash paid jobs just to get it recovered as soon as possible. So or if the agencies that is like overseas is approaching you and saying like all the costs will be covered, you will just get these workers for free, you need to keep in mind that someone will have to pay for those costs, and very often these are the workers. Can we go? Yeah. There is an international framework designed by International Organization of Migration called CAHRC, which stands for International Recruitment Integrity System. And they have the basic 5 principles of ethical recruitment. The first one is no recruitment fees or related costs can be charged to the job seeker. The second one is respect for freedom of movement, transparency, respect for confidentiality and data protection, and also respect for access to remedy for the foreign workers. So these are kind of basic 5 principles that recruitment agencies that operate in an ethical way should follow. We move to the next slide. There are also certain regulatory requirements in each provinces. Like the first map is shows that the provinces that have certain laws related to migrant workers' employment or recruitment, And the other map shows the licensing regulation. So basically, like in Ontario, the licensing will likely be required starting early 2024. And which means like if you are working with a recruitment agency, the recruitment agency first needs to be licensed. The regulation is quite new. Like the first regulation was adopted in Manitoba in 2009, and the last was like in Quebec in 2020. But this is how the provinces are trying to regulate the rights of migrant workers and also the activity of the recruitment agencies. Can we move to the next slide? So if you are deciding to, if you are choosing to work with the recruitment agency, this is just like some tips and questions that you could ask before hiring an agency. For example, ask them about the experience in your local market. Like if you are located in Alberta, you probably would like to work with the local agency, not the agency that is based somewhere east in Toronto area. You also need to ask, what will be your involvement in the process? Like how do you need to like sit at all the, like, I would say like how much you will be involved in the process in terms of like, will they get back to you with the questions? Like who is going to do the reference checks and so on? What is the estimated time frame to close a job opening, especially if you're hiring workers from overseas, and if it's a seasonal position, you kind of need to like ask the agency like how long do they think it will take them to find the applicants and to do necessary paperwork and the process. You can ask if you would have a dedicated account manager. It's always nice to have someone, like one person in charge that you can call. You can inquire about the progress. You can ask if how often will you receive status updates, because like once you are giving a job requisition form, a job order to the agency, you like don't know what's happening, like whether there is a job advertising running, how many candidates applied, how many candidates passed the first pre-screening, when the interviews with you as an employer are going to happen. So you may decide like, I would like to receive like status updates on weekly or bi-weekly basis, depending on the urgency and the position. You can also ask what is the number of pre-screened applicants that you will have for one position. Sometimes it depends on the agencies. Some agencies will provide 3 to 4, some will provide 5, some will provide 2. Again, it also depends like how good you identified the pre-screening criteria. What is the replacement and refund policy? Like if you hire the workers through an agency and for example, the worker didn't pass the probation period, like will you get like a free replacement? Will you get a refund? Like how much will you get? And also what is the fee structure? Because different agencies operate differently. Some will require like a 50% down payment, some will require 40%. Some agencies will operate like if it's a low skilled position, they will charge you a flat fee per worker, say like $2,000. Some agencies, if you're hiring for more skilled position or supervisory management position, they can charge you like a certain percentage of the annual salary of the worker that you're hiring. Can you move to the next slide? The other thing that you need to consider is like, even if you're hiring a recruitment agency and even if you're spending money to that, the more involved you are in the process, the more likely you will get the better results and the more likely you have the employees that meet your criteria and meet your requirements. So it's up to you. You can either choose to play like a very active role or just rely on the agency, but you just need to understand that agency will do some work for you, but most of the work you still need to do, such as like hiring decisions, interviewing, making sure that workers understand the job requirements and have the right expectations. And also, if you're hiring a foreign worker from overseas, an employment agency, they have no influence over the speed of the processing of the application. They may have more knowledge in how to put the application together, but it doesn't matter like for Immigration Canada. whether the worker like applied through the agency or applied by himself or herself, the time processing will still be the same. And this is just like a short overview of the recruitment process. Like preparing, you develop a profile, you write a job description. That's when you need to be realistic with your requirements and maybe have like must have and good to have in order to see like what are the requirements that you can compromise. Sourcing and screening, this is something that recruitment agency can do, like build a pool of candidates that meet your requirements and do some basic resume screening and phone interviews. And if you want to be involved in the process, my tip will be to ask for the updates from the agency. And if you see that like not many applicants apply, not many applicants meet the first criteria, maybe you need to adjust your initial criteria a little bit. When agency does the like first phone interviews, if there are certain things that you want to make sure that the workers understand, just make sure that the agency gives the realistic job preview to the applicants as well. Selecting, this is something that you have to do. Sometimes the agency will see it on the interviews when you're doing the interviews, especially if you plan to use this agency like for many years. It might be a good practice as they may see like what are the like most important things that you ask on the interviews, and they will understand your requirements better as well. Some agencies will just refer you the applicants and you do the interviews yourself. Reference check, agencies usually do the reference check and like issuing a job offer. Sometimes agency negotiated, sometimes you just need to like give it directly to the applicant. And onboarding is also an important part of the recruitment process, because like you need to check in with the applicant, provide the feedback to make sure that the person will stay with you long term. This is just an example of the job requisition form that is given like for two like recruitment agencies to work to find like an applicant from overseas. And I always recommend to give like as much information as possible about the business, the wages, how it's structured, the job requirements. And if you're hiring from overseas, also provide some information about your community, so the workers would have a better understanding where they are going to, and maybe like even like pictures of the workplace, tools, equipment that can be used. This is something that always helps for the agency that is trying to find the suitable applicants. Can we? And here are some like best practices or also tips like for the local recruitment. It's always good to work with the agency that's specialized in your industry sector, as they have this expert knowledge. They will be able to find the applicants that fit you better, and they will be able to pre-screen the applicants better on the technical side. If you're working with if you're looking for seasonal workers, reach out in advance. Ask for references, ask agencies like whether you can talk to their clients and contact them. And it's also important to build long-term relationship with your account manager so that they learn your business, and the more they learn of your business, the better applicants they can provide to you long-term. And the last two tips, they kind of contradict each other, like move forward quickly after the interviews and don't rush your hiring process. Which means like the agencies may present applicants to several employers. So if there is someone that you really like, it's probably a good idea to move forward with the job offer. But if at the same time you keep interviewing and there is like a little thing that you are not sure about the applicant or that bothers you, it will probably become an issue in the future. So like just let your gut feeling, trust your gut feeling, and ask the agency to like keep giving you candidates until you like completely satisfied with what you're getting. Can we move to the next slide? And with the international recruitment, add more time for paperwork process, such as LMIA and work permits. LMIA, depending on the stream, it could be from 2 weeks to probably 4 to 6 weeks, including the time to prepare the application. Plus, like if you are not in an agricultural stream, you need to advertise for 4 weeks as well. And work permits, it also depends on the country. Even if you do international recruitment, try to interview the candidates using Zoom or MS Teams. It's always good to see like who is coming. It's always good to see the person, their body language, how they react to your questions. So my advice would be to use like a video interview, not just a simple phone interview. If you're hiring multiple candidates, also count that candidates will likely drop out during the process. For example, if you issue job offers to 5 like overseas applicants, like one may have some family issues and one may have some issues with his paperwork. So like just see if you can plan ahead and maybe have like a candidate be in mind, and also have a plan B in case of some force majeure like COVID or visa refusals or delay with arrivals. So that's why like my recommendation is when dealing with the foreign agencies and hiring international workers, try to use multiple source countries. Because if there is an issue with like issuing visas in like one embassy, like the other country may not have this issue, and like at least you have like some workers arriving. And it's always good to have like different culture like mixed together, as from my experience, employers that are hiring a lot of workers on the same nationality. First, they use their like language in the workplace all the time. Second, sometimes there's politics get involved, and so it's always good to like mix up the nationalities, but also keep in mind that you're hiring the nationalities that can actually work together. Plan settlement and onboarding ahead of time. If you're dealing with the recruitment agency, reach out to like a settlement agency and have a plan for the worker's arrival. And the last tip is more for the employer compliance. So if you're working with the recruitment agency, and if you're interviewing applicants, in the end of the process, just ask them to sign a letter saying that they didn't pay any fees in exchange of the job offer in Canada. And this will help you in future if you have an employer compliance inspection, just to like get it covered, like in case there is an issue. These are just typical questions that you can ask for the like reference check. What type of recruiting did the agency conduct? Did the agency understand the recruitment needs? Was the agency knowledgeable about your specific industry? Did they successfully recruit the workers? Were there any surprises in the recruitment process? Do you find the fee reasonable? So it's always good to talk to the agency's clients, and it will give you a better idea of the process, the agency, how they work, their values, and also like maybe save you some surprises in future as well. It's not so much related to the dealing with the recruitment agencies, but I just wanted to add that employer branding and like how you are presented in a social media, it's important, because usually applicants, even overseas, like when they are before accepting the job, they will try to like Google, they will try to find information on the company. There is information available on Indeed or Glassdoor about the interview process, about the salaries and wages. So just make sure that you have this presence, and the presence is positive, because it affects the like offer acceptance rate, it affects your cost of hiring, employee referral rate, and just like in general, like try to provide a good interview experience to the applicants, even if you didn't hire them. That's the end of my presentation, and I'm ready to answer any questions.
Yes, so if anyone does have any questions, please feel free to type them in the Q&A. If you do want to ask your question verbally, though, we do have a raise hand feature at the bottom, and you can use that as well, and I can unmute you and you can ask your question verbally instead. So we'll just give folks a couple moments to see if there are any questions.
Yeah, and as people consider that, if you do have questions about CAHRC or any other programs that we have, we'd be happy to answer those as well. Otherwise, if there are no questions, we won't hold you hostage. We always do like to give people back time in their day, so that's okay too, but we'll give you a chance to think about that.
So seeing none coming in at this moment, I would say if there are any questions after the presentation that you have, you can reach out to Jade or Victoria or Leslie, whoever's most appropriate for your question, and we'd be happy to get answers to you.
Great. Well, thanks, Erin, and thank you, Victoria. I will turn it over to Leslie for closing comments, but thank you all for your time today. We very much appreciate it and hope that this was helpful to you.
Thank you, Jade. So thank you everyone at CAHRC for helping us out with this. It was a lot of information, a lot of great information. I'm sure that everybody online is just kind of processing and taking it all in. So if there are any questions that come up after the fact or after you've thought about something, please feel free to let me know. If I don't have the answer, I can definitely reach out to Victoria and we can get that information out to you. And as before, once we have a copy of this presentation, it will go up on the CNLA YouTube site. I did in the chat put the link to the last one for anyone that was asking for that, and this one will come out as well. But thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you for your time, everyone from CAHRC.
Great. Thank you. Have a great day.
Yep.
Thanks, everyone.